You are here just in time as we are going to begin session 104 PLOD. So yes, here's our map. Here is the final destination. And now let's have a little bit of fun getting the party from A to B aboard the Repentless. So we have yeah, Norlai's always been her best self. What are you all talking about?
No.
You have gone through, and I believe now we've finalized things. Like, you all have your spells, your final forms, you know, your appearance, anything that's shifted there, you know, class, subclass, background, skill proficiencies, etc., etc. And so now, finally, your forms have sort of cooled from the cosmic forge that you know, printed you and popped you back into the world. And you already exchanged your treasures. You got a feeling for what's happening in regards to that. And one way, if you choose, to appease and even build a relationship or influence on Seltur. But if you all just jump ship and you do your own thing, that's completely up to you all. I am not forcing you aboard the Repentless. Anyway, we are going to now go into that mansion. Oh, apparently everything just loaded at once here. This was the room where the exchanges were made. This is also the map room. This is like a good meeting place for you all to work. There are charts. There's like charts and maps that have presumably been plundered. Lots of trophies and interesting pieces. Again, a good majority of the things that are here are Shadowhar. There are places from around Mesotopia as well, but a lot of the coloration and the scheming and just the make and model of things would point that she's done a lot of Shadowhar plundering, which is making her persona non grata among them in the various places. Primarily, that would be in the Aslandian Desert, as well as, well, you're kind of flying right into the nest there of Mesomasca. So that'll be something for you all to consider and discuss as you get closer. But right now, we left off after the busy work. You can always summon DJ, who is the sort of butler for Seltur. Has been a face for her in various markets and is a storyteller as well, being a bard. So he is willing to play music, to share stories, to evaluate things, to try and fill you in on things that you might have questions on. So he's a liaison in so much that you want to interact with him. And if you do, let me know. You could do it in private, or if you want to call him in on a planning session. You know, out of character. Now, you know, this was more of a me as DM to you as my players, and therefore your characters. Now I shift to the audience. This is a way that you as a dungeon master can also, without breaking the story, be able to do a little bit of a lore bomb, or to give a consideration. You are not obliged to always tell the truth or to even have an opinion on something. But a character like this, especially late in the game, where honestly the characters that we have they're very high level. You know, they have the ability to do fantastic things, to achieve great things. Now, the world's kind of forgotten about them because they've been presumed dead, and even then, like, they kind of went around and were doing stuff behind the scenes. So they're starting at kind of like a Mesotopia influence, like level 0. But at least they know someone who does have influence and does have knowledge. And this could be a way to interact with that, to influence it, or to inform. So yeah, it also just, you know, it's a good in character. You take the extra step instead of just going, all right, well, let's read the list. Okay, now you just absorb it. Yeah, you can have fun doing it, especially if you want to talk with an accent that kind of goes woo like a moo. Um, all right. So, were there any questions from you as players before we slip into character, and we're going to start taking you across the sea over to Mesomasca?
I don't think so. I don't. I can't think of anything.
Okay, no problem.
I think we kind of understand what it is we're getting into. That we're uh, really just looking for like things that are Shonaruth kind of oriented, and so like flesh trees and things of that sort. Finding out if we're going to be effective, and the one that we know about is in Mesomasca, and uh, and we all decided kind of that we're going to go try and tackle that, see if we can do something about it. If we can, great. Then we know what we need to do. If not, then we need to find things that are going to help us be effective, and that's the plan, really.
All right. Then it sounds like you have a couple days aboard the Repentless, as it's moving steadily, and unless anything bad really happens, you've made like Seltur knows how to get there.
Yeah.
So you each would have a couple days to do something, to work on something. I mean, it might be a little early to call for downtime, but effectively, you want to lounge around in awesome chairs and just be like super fat and lazy and glad to be alive. You can absolutely do that. To get your rest in before it's time to go back to work. If you do want to work on something, you want to fidget around, you want to tour the lower decks, you want to poke and prod at the fleshy, bulbs and stuff that make this place up, you can do that too.
I think Mordecai is more or less going to just be testing out what it is that he can do now because he feels different.
Okay.
It's more just getting used to, mechanically being a cleric instead of bard, and kind of just testing that more or less, just kind of like off and on. It's not going to be like something intensive where he's just going to like he's not gonna pop off like a giant sunbeam in the ship because that would be a bad idea, but but just kind of playing around with what it is that he can do and testing his connection to Ouijas and why it is that he has such a strong connection now, and so really just kind of feeling that out over the course of the couple of days. He's not really looking to experiment with anything because he doesn't know what he can do right now.
Okay.
He's just testing the waters, as it were.
Yes.
All right, then. Sorry, let me get to this real quick. Apparently I completely forgot what page this is on. 1 second while I look this up. There we go. Okay. As you are practicing, and by the way, the events that we're doing here, I don't know if I'm not intending them to take place at any particular point in the journey, as this is I want to present this more like a vignette of scenes of things that are just going to happen over the course of your time with each other aboard this ship, interacting with anyone or anything here. So this isn't necessarily in any particular order, with the exception of this is prior to your arrival. As you are practicing, Mordecai, At some point, um, at some point, DJ is going to come across you.
Mm-hmm.
Probably checking in to see if there's anything that that you want to eat or drink, because especially noting that you are like, I can do food again.
Yeah.
And he actually has quite a variety of things to eat and drink. And he hasn't poisoned you to this point. I mean, maybe he won't, or maybe he will in the future, but at least so far he hasn't. So he's going to stop by and see you practicing, and is going to offer you the opportunity to practice on live targets. Well, maybe not live, depending on the type of target you're looking for, but if you actually want to see what you can do, he can help you with that.
In what sense, DJ?
Well, the ship has a lot of resources, and I think that it is a good idea if you wanted to stretch your fingers or legs or tail, whatever it is you use to cast, to practice. Keep your senses honed, as Seltur does with her combat skills. I can provide you targets upon which you can practice.
Sure. If you'd like.
He will smile and ask you in about 20 minutes' time to meet him at a particular point on the top deck.
And I will do so when the time is ready.
He clicks his heels effectively. I mean, his hooves. Oh, hey, we have a fluffy sheep, aka Bright. There we go. And so, after a little bit of time, you get whatever it is you'd want to bring with you to practice, quote unquote. You follow his directions, which actually you are, the hallways may still be creepy, but they're at least more known now. And whether or not becoming comfortable with this is a comfortable itself idea, I'll leave that to you. But some sort of an inherent creepiness or threat seems to have eased up as you're making your way through the innards of the Repentless. You make your way to the top. The wind is blowing as the constant that of those undead engines continue to help the Repentless just plod through the skies. You can look around you for miles in all directions. Though for the most part now you've left Fallfire behind, very literally, and it's pretty much open sea. And you're not sticking too close to Aslandia just in case there's any airships that might want to cause trouble for the Repentless. Such a vast ship, and here you are, alone, but maybe never truly alone. You make your way across the top deck, and there's DJ. He meets you, and he has an assortment of things. He has a little chest that's closed. He has a couple maybe magic items on a little table, and he also has a horn. It would be more like a clarinet, but it's one that he can play. It is sized for his big meaty minotaur fingers. Mordecai, thank you for coming, and I hope that this will be of great help to you. Tell me, what kind of practice would you like? Is there a concerning, an overarching concern about running into the undead? Is there perhaps something a little bit more strange? Would you like to fight against a wild animal?
I am not sure. All of this is incredibly strange. And I'm not terribly concerned with undead, I suppose. Although, you know, certain things are taboo. But no, like the kind of monstrosities that appear as a result of Shonaruth. Those creatures are what I'm concerned about.
Check.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Fluffy.
Nuzzles. Sorry for the hold up. I don't know. Technical problems. I hate my life.
Oh no.
Oh.
Well, hopefully for a brief amount of time here together, we'll have fun and that'll drop away. Although,
okay.
Although I gotta tell you, your intro here just. You came in like the disgruntled businessman. You hang your hat up, your scarf on the hook. You come in, but you give the obligatory just like nuzzles, and then you just like you're pissed off walking into the house. You stop to at least give a courtesy nuzzle, and then you just keep going.
I'm not really upset, just frustrated.
Oh yeah.
But it's on brand for Fluff. It's fine.
Yeah. You were pre-gaming.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So you discuss this and actually, DJ is able to help you in that regard, and the situation is set up. He asks if you're ready, because he's going to be providing you some target practice.
Fair enough.
And
as long as we don't go knocking each other off the ship, yeah?
If you don't want that to be a possible problem, it's good to let me know.
Yeah, I'm not exactly a fan of heights.
All right.
I'm not looking down. I'm not looking over the edge. I'm in the middle of the goddamn ship. I'm not looking down.
Okay, so he is going to begin playing. Yeah, he'll say, okay, well, go a little bit like, you know, into the middle. Go amidships here, and he begins playing his horn. And the deck begins to bubble, like the flesh begins to bubble, and something similar if you've seen the movie Gremlins, where a bunch of little hairballs start shooting out of the gremlins. These like wet black hairballs kind of like rupture out like a popped pimple on the deck. And one eye opens up in the middle of them, but they got like a lot of tendrily, like little gribbly hair tendrils, and they just begin kind of crawling around. None of them are especially like they're not lunging at you, anything along those lines, but mechanically, you have a handful of aberrations in front of you.
Okay. Well. I suppose I'll start off with a sacred flame.
Okay. They crumple and die.
Okay. Well, I suppose that's... I'm not sure exactly what it is that you're testing me for. Testing me about this.
Oh, I'm not testing you. I thought this was about testing yourself.
Well, yes. Seems a little wasteful to just use materials for things, but he's gonna try a ray of enfeeblement to see what that does.
Okay.
Because he's never done that before.
Okay. One of these little cycloptic wet hairballs is struck and kind of collapses under its own weight. It's like flopping and struggling on the deck. Very pitiful.
I don't... That just seems weird.
Do you want something a little more robust?
I don't know. I suppose I'm just getting used to this. He just kind of gestures at himself. I'm not the same as I was.
Oh, well, Mordecai, no one truly ever is. Even day to day, although the increment is less. I have done a lot of growing in the past 2 years. In fact, perhaps I could even show you as well as put yourself to a test. I promise it shouldn't be anything too lethal or cause you to go over the side of the ship.
Sure, a sparring match.
Yes, of sorts. Though please don't direct your attacks at me. Oh, speaking of re-ups,
I have done a lot of subscribing in the last 2 years.
2 years plus. Thank you, Fluffy. I appreciate it. He'll stand across from you. We'll say 60 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes his horn and he begins playing one more time. A lot of these cysts begin to grow on the ship deck, and they are when they pop, just like a kind of a foul-smelling liquid comes out. But also, what sluices out of the ruptured sac is a body, presumably one of the many sailors that had been eaten over the course of time here. And the music continues to play, and as it does, the figures stand up, and they're very clearly dead, and they look all goopy. But with a quick flourish of notes, it would seem like DJ is able to send them over to you here. So you have 4 zombies making their way. It'll take them a little bit to get 60 feet to you, but it gives you time to react or move in some way that you need to. But you do have some reanimated corpses shambling their way to you.
Out of instinct, he's going to turn undead.
Okay.
As if by instinct. And so, yeah, that's channel divinity. But also, if they're particularly low level, it's just going to destroy them.
Oh yeah, you're going to evaporate them. Yeah. They missed. M-I-S-T. Which has the unfortunate benefit as the air is blowing your way. Maybe that's why DJ is actually upwind. You are covered in zombie goo, but you're not covered in zombies trying to eat you.
Alright.
But yeah, you just completely obliterated the corpses.
Why did I react that way? Never reacted like that before.
And you're contemplating this. DJ will make the offer if you wanted to continue to explore yourself and this new you. He will provide you a variety of enemies to practice on.
And he'll do that for a while, and you know, including if things start to escalate, start to like be a little tougher to destroy, he's gonna spend, you know, the resources to do it and figure out what exactly it is he could do as a cleric now. And so and he's starting to realize that he's acting almost as if reactionary, like that is an instinct in him now. That it just comes naturally. And he's finding it very strange to be reacting that way, but it also feels right. Like this was a change that needed to happen.
Would you please make a strength saving throw?
Strength saving throw. Oh, jeez. This is gonna go badly. Ha! That's a natural one.
Yes, it will. That is a red number for those of you at home because you can't see that. Because honestly, if you saw our chat,
boy.
I'd have to tag this as mature. All right, so Mordecai, as you are contemplating this, a strong wind just batters, like it blows over, like the ship itself even kind of like as you must have hit something. Something's going on here. A strong wind catches you and sends you tumbling over the side of the ship.
Oh no. He's definitely not okay with this.
Well, you are falling to your presumable death, so yeah, I would be not okay with that too.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry to kill you so early into
The first thing that he thinks that he should try to do is Dimension Door, but he can't do that anymore. He realizes he can't do that anymore. And so in a bit of a panic, he just reaches out with a prayer, and giant ethereal black wings just sprout out of his back. And he starts to fly. And I'm activating Radiant Soul.
Yeah. How does it feel, Mordecai? Here you are, flying beside this lumbering mass, but maybe that's not as important as the fact that you're falling just with style.
And he instinctually makes his way back to the deck of the ship and just kind of lands, and he's like, holy shit.
DJ echoes that, by the way. You couldn't... Could you have always done that?
No.
I wish I could.
No, that's new. That's very new.
I have to wear this ring. He shows off one of his meaty sausage fingers with a big ring on it that has like a little... It has like a little white feather in a little glass globe on top.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I could do that.
Well, I'm happy for you, and I would certainly appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone you almost died on my watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna go inside now. Okay, goodbye.
He gathers up his magical figurines and his instruments, and he's putting some things away.
And after about a minute, the ethereal wings disappear into like a flutter of feathers, ethereal feathers, and he goes back inside, and he's just not. He's definitely not okay with the fact that he just almost fell to his death.
All right, we are going to cut to another little short on our travel log here. I'm actually going to go over to Bright. Bright, is there a particular place aboard the ship where you would frequent? Are you staying in your room? Like, are you traveling everywhere just to see?
Well, a little of those things. I probably would travel. I would definitely want to see the ship. See as much as I can learn about it.
Okay.
Because I also explored a different Shadowheart built ship, and I would like to compare and contrast the naval architecture.
Oh, sure.
But also, I would probably spend most of my time in the library, whatever passes for a library on the ship. I know you said that we have like this conservatory kind of place where we can do our research. So I would probably spend as much time as possible actually doing the research. You know, I have so much to learn. So much to learn.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of books here, and they're in different states of repair. So some of it might break your heart. Others, well, can you read it? You've gone back to divination, right? Can you read everything?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I can read anything I want to now.
Okay. So yeah, you're getting some history of from the Shadowheart side of things. Honestly, it seems like Seltur just collects things to collect it, because there's also there's some like personal diaries of different people. There's like receipt books from a merchant that was probably caught up in being eaten. It's sort of like the sundry stuff that they find in Egypt. Like, here's a complaint about a copper shipment. Oh no, the beer's 2 days late. How are we going to build the pyramids? Kind of a thing. So yeah,
you can't build a pyramid without beer,
right? So like they look like a fancy collection, but now that you're going through it, I mean, there's some maybe a little bit of arcane stuff, nothing like a treatise or a spell book, but they're arranged nicely. But it's clear that Seltur's just presenting stuff to present it, because a lot of this information, unless, I don't know, Shadowheart economics is kind of a cool like side, you want to get a minor in that. It's some day-to-day stuff.
Okay.
And I think that Bright's been not as like fiercely, Shadowheart, gotta kill them all kind of a thing, but it is providing an opportunity to just see that these people live day-to-day lives as well. As much as they're an evil empire, like, people get upset when the bill's not paid, just like anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, Bright's not super gotta kill the Shadowheart. She just doesn't want everyone to turn into vampires. So, and I mean, it would be nice if the Shadowheart would go back to the Shadowheart place. But, I mean, if they're fleeing because it's too cold, then maybe we can fix the weather for them. That was kind of my goal. So, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Once upon a time, I had a Shadowheart history book that I made a copy of, but I think I lost it in hell. So yeah, I mean, the history of the empire is probably part of it, but I mean, Bright has a lot of stuff that she's working on. It's not just learning about the world, because what would be great would be to find any kind of information about the flesh trees, any kind of diaries or anything. She probably knows about them as much about them as anybody does. But I don't know. She's still kind of coming to grips, with life.
Okay.
Like being alive. That's new.
You got to relearn it.
Yeah.
You got to dust it off and give it a go.
Yeah.
Still having trouble blinking my eyes, synchronized. It's one or the other.
Mordecai's also getting used to being alive, so they can relate.
One's always a half second off.
Mordecai
Go
can
ahead and make a
relate.
perception, speaking of eyes.
Oh no, not a perception. Not a perception. No, not perception. Actually, I have proficiency in it now. It's not as bad.
I was going to say, yeah. Look at that, there's a green number. Now, it's not the primary one, but that's fine, because you're still going to succeed here. So yeah, as you are here, you're reading books. You're alone in the room here. DJ usually makes himself known before he's known, because he kind of clomps around and it's easy to hear. He doesn't really try and hide his presence. However, as you're reading, you kind of you lean up against the wall and you're looking here, and you get that feeling, because you've had this before, of someone maybe reading over your shoulder. And unfortunately, it happens a lot when a lot of people are taller than you. It just sort of almost inadvertently, like, you get this feeling that there's someone behind you looking over your shoulder at what you're reading. I don't know if that bothers you, but you get that kind of and when you look, there's an eye just kind of sticking out, like halfway out, so it's a hemisphere of the wall. It looks fresh and glistening. Doesn't look particularly like unhealthy or bloodshot, but there's an eye, and it's just kind of jamming out there.
Huh. Well, hello, Mr. Eye. I don't think I saw the eyes that appeared in the walls before
I don't
listened
believe
part of
so.
my story. So,
It might have been prior to you sneezing and moving a skill from one to the other.
yeah.
I'm sorry, per
sneezing,
sneeping.
Per sneeping. That's another thing I haven't done in a few hundred years.
Man, that first one's gonna get dusty.
Yeah. That's a thing where you definitely have to keep it synchronized with your eyes.
Oh, jeez.
You can't sneeze with your eyes open, so if you try, it just nothing comes out. It's really frustrating.
So yeah, the eyes, it actually kind of almost like the wall just doesn't exist, or it's seamless. It's not leaving ripples, but it's moving through it like water. It just sort of like descends down to your height, and it looks at you, looks at the book, looks back at you.
Hello, Mr. I. Can I help you? Do you need some Visine? I don't know what else I can offer.
It spins, so the pupil is going like it's rolling back, and then it's rolling through again, and it rolls from down to up a couple times.
Huh. Does it go past like a bar and a 7 and a lemon?
No, but there is a resemblance in the motion as it makes a couple rotations like that.
Oh, okay. Are you?
Oh, go ahead.
Are you okay?
Ahead.
Are you okay, Mr. I?
It begins to slowly descend, and then it kind of goes from the junction from the wall to the ceiling, and it just is now in the or not the ceiling, the floor, the wall to the floor. It's now in the floor by your feet. It's staring up. It makes a couple rotations again.
Okay, I'll make sure to tuck my skirt under.
Oh. Aye. You do that, and it spins, and it actually moves. It moves a couple feet away. Got to remember coffee's art here in my narrative description, but still, we'll play it where it lands because that's amusing. But yeah, it ends up rolling a couple feet away, and then it goes back to look at you, and then so let's say that you're here on, well, I don't know if you'd want to use the animal skin rug here, but let's say you're there for proximity. It looks at you, it rolls back at an angle to point this way, and then rolls back to you over here. And it moves about another foot this way.
Okay. Well, I'll follow Mr. I. It seems like he wants me to follow him.
Sure.
So I can do that.
Okay. Yeah, it will move and be looking forward, and as if gliding through water without leaving ripples, it is going through the arch, down the hallway, and every once in a while it'll stop and look back and kind of make a beckoning motion with its iris and pupil, like looking at you and flicking ahead.
You can tell I've spent a few hundred years in hell because this doesn't surprise me or upset me in the slightest.
Oh, you lost, little guy? Let's... Okay. So you end up, you follow the eye, and it's taking you on a path through the ship. A point of reference, you process it however you wish, but something about the ship, either you're more comfortable with it now, or because you know about it, it's less scary, or, I don't know, just something, the presence of the ship doesn't feel quite as menacing, or eerie, even though you're chasing an eyeball down a hallway. But you're getting around pretty easily. It's actually pretty well laid out, and it's taking you over to a flight of steps, which it then begins to, again, still sort of like half immersed into the foundation, or into the solid part. It begins going up the steps.
Yeah. I mean, the ship isn't that menacing anymore. It's not really home. It's more like our Airbnb, by which I mean it's a B&B that's in the air.
Yeah, yeah, right. And you didn't even have to put a security deposit down, so you can trash the place and just take off. All right, so
I'm sure we'll find a way eventually.
Well, so you end up making your way up, and again, this is not necessarily at the time that Mordecai was on deck. Each of you, there's plenty of space, because it seems to be the four of you, DJ, and then Seltur, if you count her as a person, as an omnipresent bioship personality. But anyway, I will say she hasn't directly, for all of our little vignettes, she hasn't directly manifested. Like, we didn't have another room encounter where she sort of like, oh, here I am, and we're gonna specifically talk. It's been you all pretty well left alone to explore and to get comfortable with this place. So you follow the eye, and it seems to be doing a playful little, like a wobble back and forth. It's going in a general direction, taking you over actually to a side railing. And there as you look over to the place that the eye had led you, you can see off in the distance, the great distance, that there is a storm. There's a storm incoming, or at least it has already come, and it is manifest a good ways off. What you're seeing, you're looking to the northeast, so you're presumably out here, and you are looking in this direction towards Aslandia. But we'll go back to...
Yeah. So it's behind us.
Yeah.
Is it like it's chasing us, or does it just happen to be behind us?
With the weather patterns, the way that DJ had described to you, this seems like another cold front blowing down from the northeast over Aslandia and into Mesotopia.
Oh.
And so it roiled over the desert, and all this cold air is now meeting the sea, like all the humidity and everything evaporating off of the sea, and it's manifesting as in the distance a pretty severe thunderstorm, like a fall thunderstorm. You do see lightning. There are just dark and roiling clouds. Nothing necessarily looks suspicious. It doesn't have like moving shapes through the clouds, or it doesn't have a face or other things that Almost in a
That's
way.
good.
Like, why am I even why am I looking for this? What has happened to me that I'm suspicious of thunderstorms now. But your suspicion is rewarded by it just seems to be a natural thunderstorm off in the distance.
Okay. Yeah, natural thunderstorms don't bother me as much.
Still an eerie bookmark. You're like, no, there's got to be a
You
face
were
in
in hell for
there,
a how
a
long?
cloud tendril. The heavens are gonna open up, and a swarm of somethings are gonna pour out.
Yeah.
Poor cynical Bright.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we're heading away from it, so... I mean, I guess Mr. I guess Mr. I doesn't have a name. I'll just call him Mr. I.
It hasn't reacted poorly to that.
Okay, Mr. I. Mr. I thought it was important for me to see this, so I can't just say, well, that's interesting, and just go back in. But I don't really know what to make of it yet. I mean, it seems like it's just an ordinary thunderstorm. So, I mean, I'll watch it for a while and see if it
Okay.
becomes more dangerous or dissipates or moves on. You know,
the
whatever it
eye
does.
perches on the rail next to, like, you know, if you're on the rail watching, or something like that, or however you're doing it, the little eye just kind of bloop. It just bloops right on top of the railing and is looking out in the distance, same as you. Lightning is striking. The rains, the very cold fall, maybe even almost verging on snow, it's coming down over Aslandia, or at least the coast of it, where it's picking up all this moisture, and it's fierce, kind of menacing, but you're at a safe distance all the same, and on a ship that's moving away from it. So, you know, the wind's blowing through your floofs. Fortunately, the eye has some power to always stay glassy and moist, despite
It has the
wind.
power of blinking.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have lids, but I'll leave some, whatever Eldritch Horror is keeping an eyeball from blinking without eyelids. I'll let you figure that one out. But there's a moment where you're watching the storm, and do you, either as a divination wizard or anything you take, can you be surprised at all?
Yeah, I can be surprised.
Okay. All right. I mean, maybe you'll say nothing much surprises me anymore, but...
I mean, that's true, but it's still theoretically possible.
I like that answer. It's theoretically possible. At some point in your storm watching, you feel a presence again. However, you look at the eye, and the eye is still there watching the storm. But you do see a taloned black hand gripping the rail by the eye. And your own eyes can follow that hand up to, you know, an elbow, a shoulder. And you see that Seltur has manifested at some point beside you, and is also just looking out over the railing at the storm.
Oh, hi. Do you know Mr. I? Mr. I, this is Seltur. Seltur's the boat. And Seltur, this is Mr. I. He lives in the boat. So I guess you probably are already acquainted. But just in case you're not, I'm glad to introduce you.
Oh, is that your name now, dearie? She looks down at the eye, and the eye rolls as if to shrug.
Okay.
You know, Chicken Nugget. That was actually in Mordecai.
Was it?
Oh, yes.
What do you mean? It looks like it's too big for lunch.
Oh, no, it was growing under his skin. You see, we all had these little lumps. Anyway, there was this whole other story. That's not exactly why I called you here.
That's good. That's good.
You can talk to him about it.
Yeah,
Chicken
I'll be
Nugget,
sure to ask
I
him.
needed your advice or your opinion.
That's... I want to roll an insight to see if this is actually Seltur.
Yeah, go ahead.
I still have insight proficiency. It's persuasion I had to give up.
Okay, 19 is still pretty decent. I mean, she's obviously some sort of a different form. It's certainly making you give her the stink eye. Like, so far it seems to be authentic. I mean, she's not tried to eat you. That's good, but also, I mean, that would confirm it's her, even though you don't want it to happen.
I'd really prefer if she didn't.
But this is a moment where she actually seems contemplative. Wistful might be a little strong, but she's contemplative at least.
Well, there's a first time for everything. Yeah, I'm happy to help. What is it that you need?
You still have feelings, right, Chicken Nugget?
I think so. I mean, even when I was in hell, I still had some feelings. I mean, not always the same feelings, but sure.
When you look at that storm out there on the horizon,
Yeah.
what do you feel?
I don't know. I guess I just feel like it's a symbol, maybe. I mean, I haven't seen any signs that it's supernatural. It just seems like a regular storm. But it's a storm that shouldn't have had to come here. It's a storm that should have stayed up north. And I mean, we get plenty of thunderstorms at home in Uct, or at least we used to, but they're not the same. So it just feels like it's a sign that things aren't how they're supposed to be. And that what we're here to do is put things right. Or at least fix them as much as we can.
Are those feelings or are those thoughts?
I mean, it's both.
I asked you for your feelings and you just told me a bunch of stuff that I can see.
Well, yeah, but that's how feelings are. Feelings are what you feel about things that you can see. So I feel like that's...
But don't you feel power? Fear? Does looking at that storm make your insides all twisted? Or do you actually look at opportunity and your eyes widen?
I don't feel particularly twisted, although I'm still getting used to being alive again, so if some of my parts aren't correctly attached, I might not even know it. But no, I don't feel afraid or powerful. I mean, it's pretty far away. It's just something to reflect on. It's not something that's a threat, at least not directly. So no, I'm not afraid of it. Some people are afraid of thunderstorms, but I never was.
I'm not saying I'm gonna go into it, but would it be different if it was closer? Or would you look at it with that same scientific eye that you've been using?
No, it would be different if it was closer. Sometimes a hurricane would blow through. Or maybe not a hurricane. I'm not 100% sure how you want the weather to work in the world. But sometimes we get a really big storm, and you could see it's just like a wall, like a solid wall of clouds. And you can see the lightning coursing through it. And one side is completely dark and obscured, and the other side is bright, and you can see. And that's definitely a different kind of feeling, because anything could be happening on the other side of that wall of clouds, and you'd never even know. And you don't know if you're going to end up on that side or if it's going to pass you by. So it's definitely a different sort of feeling, but still not afraid. It's just weather. It won't hurt you unless you actually get hit by the lightning. So try not to do that.
I assure you, getting hit by lightning does, in fact, hurt. I've taken my fair share of those things.
Yeah, that's something that you should probably talk to Norlai about.
She and I have had a conversation.
That's
Believe me,
good.
if you have any intention on putting her on a kite and dragging her behind me, I ain't gonna allow that.
No, I'm not planning on doing that. Norlai
As
and
much
I
as how it is
get
a
along
good
a lot
idea,
better
I'm just
now.
kidding. That's me as your DM playing into the same joke another week.
I know.
No, but no, like that first interaction, but me driving it home was me. Sorry to ruin the immersion, but huh. Well, you've given me some things to think about, Chicken Nugget. See, I don't feel those things. I don't know if I can, as I am. And you came back as something that you weren't neither.
Well, I mean, kinda. I think Mordecai and the professor have changed more than I have. I got my floof back. That's nice. And I just feel like I didn't really want to change that much. I did most of my struggling with that while I was in Oiho. But now that I'm back, I'm just exactly the way I want to be.
What was it like to die?
It's kind of funny, because I didn't really. I didn't really die. Somebody put the whammy on me, and I don't even know how they did it or what kind of magic they used, but I got transported into a place where time lost its meaning. And I was just there, and I never had to eat or drink or anything. It was just time just passed, and I just got older and older, and eventually my body just crumbled away. So I never really died. I just kind of became undead without going through the process. So it wasn't really like anything, because I didn't do it the same way as most people do. What about for you? You didn't really die either. You just became like you are now, right?
As far as I recall, one of the last things I remember until I started remembering again was clinging to life, enraged in pain, hearing shouts, crack of spells in the air, and a large looming ship coming down, scoop me up, save me. A lot of other things are a blur. And I can tell you, though, filled with a powerful and mighty anger at what happened. Feelings of betrayal. And I'll tell you what, Chicken Nugget, I can't say I'm completely against him either. See that storm out there? I feel like I want it. I feel like I need it.
How
And
can
she
you
stops and looks out at the horizon again.
how can you need a storm? I mean, I can understand wanting treasures and wealth or even power, but how can you want a storm?
I want it because I can't have it. She goes to pound the railing, but like her hand kind of passes through it. And she looks down at her hand and kind of like flexes her talons, her smoky talons. Well, anyway. Y'all are... by the way, that's the singular y'all, not the plural. Y'all feel feelings differently than I do. And you think differently than I do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if you also felt like you needed that storm that you wanted it, that you were upset that you could never have it.
No, we're not really that much alike. And I guess we just don't really see things like that in the same way.
Ain't we? We both been dead but not dead. Well, at least you ain't that way no more.
Yeah, I got better. It's true. Is that really what you want? Do you just want to get better? We might be able to help you. Mordecai and I were both undead, and we got better. And the professor was a he was a thing, and he got better. And Norlai was trapped in a vat, and she got better. So maybe
all I
maybe
hear
we
is
can help you
shitty
get
things
better.
happen to people around you, and I'm included. Although I wasn't around you at the time.
Yeah,
I
that
ain't
wasn't
bitter at
really
you in
that wasn't
particular,
really on
Bright.
me. I was in a completely different continent at the time. Just want to be clear about that. Well, I'm sorry about that, and I mean, that's been something that's happened to me before, where bad things happen to people around me. That's why I became who I am. Really, was trying to struggle against that, but now I'm starting to realize that sometimes bad things just happen to people, and if you're around it, it might just be a coincidence. There's probably bad things happening to people all over, and you just see the ones that you're close to.
I wonder what I did then to deserve this.
I think you just have to be alive, especially at a time like this.
Bright. And she says Bright, actually, not Chicken Nugget.
Yeah.
Bright, did you ever make a wish so hard that it actually came true and was granted, only to find out that it wasn't exactly what you wanted?
Actually, no. That's kind of an interesting question. Check back in 2 levels. Whenever I made a wish like that, and I realized it wasn't what I wanted, it always stopped before it came true. I've never really been stuck with something that I didn't really want. That's interesting. I never really appreciated that before. But thank you. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
I don't know whether to smile or to be upset. Y'all gnomes have a way of giving backhanded compliments.
Yeah, we do that. This isn't, though. This isn't like that at all. If you feel like that's something that's happened to you, you can tell me.
I can, if I am. I ain't saying I am, though. Figured I'd just ask your opinion and get a different perspective on things and know that ain't no short joke, Chicken Nugget.
That's okay. Now that I can fly, they don't bother me as much.
And even if I were to make one, I'd say this whole situation has me stumped worse than a legless dwarf.
What do you mean stumped?
She disappears.
Huh. I guess she didn't want to answer that, but my guess is that she just doesn't. She's kind of stuck in this way of being, where she's got this pretty fancy ship, and she can go around and, torment people or slurp them up or whatever. But she doesn't really feel like she's making any progress. It's just more of the same. I can imagine being stumped that way, because she doesn't know what more she can add. Now she's looking out and seeing the storms, things that she can't have, but nobody can have a storm. That doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe you could draw a painting of a storm, or you could even catch a little lightning in a bottle. I've seen that cute little item. That's fun. Or you could even learn to cast lightning spells. But you can't have a storm. It doesn't matter. It's not a thing you can do.
The eye is there looking at you.
Hello, Mr. I.
Looks back at the storm, looks back at you, and then just kind of sinks into the railing, disappearing.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to ask Mordecai about that. I know Mordecai told me the stories, but I guess it's different when you see it up close.
All right, and you are presumably left alone. At some point in time, I'm sure DJ can come out and find you, or you can make your way back inside, or just even let the distant storm winds blow through your floofs.
Yeah, I'll watch the storm until it either goes out of range or dissipates.
Okay. Yeah, you can watch for a good long while. It doesn't look
Man,
like
sure
it's catching up, but it does. Pardon me. It does seem to be building in intensity as more and more clouds and moisture are piling up, and almost it's not quite making the wall that you're describing, but it's a fierce thunderhead.
Well, I'm sure I can find a deck chair or something to sit on and just kind of watch the storm.
Yep. Okay. Then your little vignette here has come to an end. There can be resolution for all of you who go through this, but the direct scene is over. Let's cut over to Professor Cypherius, a.k.a. Cypher to his friends. Cypher,
Yes.
over the course of you were told it would take a couple days to get to Mesomasca, flying over the sea here. And would you be studying? Would you be wanting to practice your skills? Do you want to? I mean, you have an entire ship. You can study the engineering, and you can look at the ships that have been eaten. You can, I don't know. You tell me.
Currently, I'm finishing off that Plan B to see if that old Shadowheart magic will work against the flesh trees.
Okay.
Which was a siege engine enchantment. So I'll probably finish drafting up the plans for that, as well as as well as a more general study, I think. Using all the time possible to learn. Know thy enemy, as it were.
Sure. Okay, let's do this then. You're taking time drawing up these plans. So you have your each of you still have your own private quarters. And if there were ways you wanted to modulate it, you could let DJ know. But it's still, rather dark and sumptuous, as is our dear host, Captain Seltur. But this is a place for you. You have a window you could look out at the sky or the lands, or if you're passing over the mountains, you can look down and see those. But it's still a quiet place. You have a desk. You have all the paper and ink that you could hope to need. Various measuring instruments, rulers and compasses, and all kinds of things. Which is a side note to Bright. I know that you've set aside calligraphy for now, but if you wanted to, keep your letters going, there's ink and stuff for you too.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt too much, but
Yeah.
Mechanically I had to trade calligraphy away. It's part of my minor respectlet. But that doesn't mean she's forgotten how to write or
Right.
even has lost interest in it. She just technically doesn't have that proficiency now.
Yeah, your cursive is getting a little lazy. Your signature is moving into being illegible, but it's still your signature.
No, it still has nice writing. She just doesn't do the art and all
Yeah.
that now. Yeah.
The art and the forgery.
It's not the full-time practice, or you're not in Japan you have like ranks of level of calligraphy, like, you're not doing your daily practice, but you're still up there.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Professor, you have papers and inks of different colors. This is all. I mean, this is stuff that. I mean, maybe you don't care. It's not an academic scene, but this has all the accoutrements of what higher end academics could hope for. Is access to even the raw materials for this stuff on a consistent basis. And it doesn't even look like whatever, like pages were torn out of a book that were mostly blank. Like these seem to be some pristine sheets of paper. You get vellum as well if you want something more along those lines.
I'm gonna need some vellum.
But yeah, so you're here. You're drafting. You're designing. There is a point though where there's a on the door. And
yes.
DJ pokes his horned head in. Is there anything that you need? You've been in here for some time now. Drawing, it seems. I'm not looking over your shoulder, but I can see from here a lot of lines don't seem to be writing. It doesn't look like music to me.
No, I wouldn't call it music. Not in the traditional sense, anyway. No. This is an enchantment for a siege engine.
Oh. And what kind of siege engine are you making? Do I have permission to come in and see?
By all means, DJ. Come in and see.
Clomp, 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 clomp. Big figure looms over your shoulder looking down.
You can see that this is a this particular enchantment is designed for a ballista, or an arbalest, depending on what one would like to set up. But basically, it's designed to enchant the ammunition as it goes out, much like a longbow would. You know, regular +1, +2, +3 longbow. Except it's designed to enchant with the magics of old Shadowheart, the space-time warping magics, to attempt to and as DJ comes over, Cypher starts speaking. I'm trying to design. I would want to see if this works against Schonerith's forces, because if it does, there will be music. The screams of him and his minions will be a symphony unlike any other.
Given the size, though, this isn't something you'd carry with you. Is this meant for a vehicle?
This is meant for a vehicle mount, yes. For the time being, if the enchantment works, then we can work on shrinking it. The smaller things you work with, the more intricate the magical inlays have to be, the more skilled the craftsman.
Is there anything that you need from me, or even in us, that would be more accurate, as Seltur might be able to help out in some way? She seemed to be rather pleased with you.
Yes, I bet she was. I think one thing that I think Seltur would agree that's been lacking here on the Repentless is you don't have a way to hurt Schonerith's minions. There's a lot you could delve through. A lot of treasures buried beneath the flesh trees. Just ripe for the picking if only you could get at them. If this works.
It's odd, because, well, it's not odd. That's true. it's the thing that protects the crater always seems to be able to drive us off. We can't seem to do much to it.
Well, if this works, you could mount a counterattack.
Well, I believe that is what Seltur would really want. It is a desire of hers to be able to remove that thing from its position of power, or to be a guardian. It's in the way, and that seems to really upset her.
It is. It is in the way. And so, there is but one thing that I would need. From you, and Seltur. A
What is
weapon
that?
to enchant. A weapon to enchant. On our flights to Mesomasca, we are going to be testing some wild magic weaponry upon the flesh trees, and it might be a good for us to try this thing as well. If it works, the investment will have been all worth it, and even if it doesn't, well, simply another weapon in the arsenal to grab more unsuspecting Shadowheart ships.
DJ is contemplative, tapping the end of his bovine nose with a big meaty finger. Professor, may I sit down?
By all means.
Your bed frame creaks under his weight. DJ is not a Ravnican medium-sized centaur. Or not centaur.
Minotaur.
Minotaur, yeah.
He's not a mini Minotaur.
You're a man of intelligence. You taught, yes?
Yes.
I have a question about things. Me, just DJ. I'm not talking on behalf of Seltur. I have no idea if she thinks these things either.
Then please, by all means, pose your question.
And he goes to say something. He stops. He draws a horn from his butler vest. Plays it. And he looks around, seemingly content, puts the horn back. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure that we were discussing things in private.
Alright.
From the things that I have learned from you and the others, and even what it is that I've learned from Seltur after she had picked me up, this ship seems to be an extension of Shonaruth. And yet, I have seen no commands issued. Seltur is absolutely on her own, going where she wishes, doing what she wishes. And at the same time, we are ineffectual against this other creation, this Leviathan, patrolling Fallfire. It doesn't exactly notice us, but it also seemingly is... we're at the state of not being able to affect it. Not meaningfully, anyway. And if not for Seltur, to sate my own personal curiosity, what do you think is going on here?
It's an interesting question, that. I think that from what I've read and what I've heard, the ship was built under Shodaruth's guidance, but isn't under Shodaruth's control. No, instead, I think, given who engineered the foundations of this ship, a former Shadowharo ship, then infused with flesh by Mordecai, with a certain level of intent. I think, whilst this ship is built from Shodaruth's power, its commands are built specifically by the one with the most willpower, the one with the most intent, the one with the most ambition. It is a tool only controlled by one with the most drive to see an objective achieved.
And that's Seltur? She's an ambitious woman.
I believe at the moment that that is Seltur. Because, you see, I don't think Shonaruth wants for anything. I think Shonaruth has desires, but does not hunger, if you know what I mean.
I believe I get your meaning, Professor.
That's very obvious by the way the Sky Shadow Leviathan acts. It is purely defensive. The goal is not to let anyone into the crater. Correct?
That is what we presume.
Because if Shonaruth wanted, Shonaruth could have that Sky Shadow Leviathan and hundreds more sweep across this land in a maelstrom of devastation. And yet he doesn't. Why? Because
he taps his nose, thinking.
Because that's not part of the plan. He doesn't want that. Or it's that he wants it, but cannot make it happen. You see, I've had this little theory about wild magic. Wild magic is one of the few things that we have found is actually able to affect him and his minions. I believe it to be a defense system of some kind. This world's defense system. And I think it hampers him to the point where whilst he may have the will to put forward, he doesn't have the capacity in this world to let it be known. Not in the way that Seltur can, not in the way that even myself, or the Child Emperor of the Shadowhar Empire, or Mordecai, or Mercury, if Mercury was still alive. Or Norelai, or Bright.
You have done a lot of thinking, Professor. More than I've had the ability to do.
I tend to do as such.
I'm sorry that I can't do much to help you with this theory.
Oh,
Though
it is quite alright,
I
DJ.
can continue to supply you meals and drink and conversation, or song even if you need it.
Well, I would definitely appreciate food and drink. I, of course, am still mortal and need to feed mortal needs. But I think it would be best suited that we find weapons to push back his encroachment. But this is not a test of strength or a test of endurance. The threat that Schoenruth presents is a test of wits and willpower.
DJ kind of sits back on the bed and it creaks, and just a mighty bellowing laughter and even snorting comes out of his bovine nose. Just something has just absolutely just amused him. In your presentation or just in the contemplation of this. But you have absolutely tickled DJ Pink. And it's not like a maniacal laughter. Like, it's actually like a good, hearty belly laugh.
Is there something that tickles your fancy, DJ?
Oh, oh. Well, the way that you put this. Wars on the horizon, armies are marching, horrible creatures are crawling, or he actually makes a sweeping gesture towards the window, flying through the air. Though that's kind of open-ended. You were talking about the Leviathan, but he is a bard, and a little bit of that flourish and doubt creeps into the accent that he puts on that. And yet it would seem that this is nothing more than a contest, a battle of the bands, such as it were, for dominance. Who plays the loudest music, or the person who gets the most claps?
It's very much like that. Everything could be boiled down to a contest of some kind, but the difference between a battle of bands and this is the stakes. What is gained and what is lost. In the battle of the bands, reputation, bragging rights, maybe some money, maybe some other kind of reward. Maybe someone put a deed to a keep in there or something. In this contest, the stakes are lives, land, livelihood, existence, freedom.
All things I know much and more about in all my years roaming the lands of Mesotopia.
Exactly.
I believe, Professor, you've given me some food to chew on. And, I'll do what I can to help you. I might even have a few ideas of my own. But, kind of like you, I'd need an opportunity to sketch them out or write them as they were. Though perhaps mine would be more music on paper than lines and graphs and arcs.
Geometry most sacred comes in many flavors, and music is simply the geometry of sound.
You are full of very amusing comparisons. I know more about music and less about measuring things. Geoli. But, I feel that I have had a bit of inspiration. Huh. I'll see what magic I can work. Of course, in the past 2 years I haven't been idle, and I'd like to say that I've picked up a trick or two myself.
Then I'm very interested to see what comes out of your labors, DJ.
As the Shadowhar say, my dear professor, all things in time.
That they do. That they do.
He'll stand up. Your bed resumes a normal shape, although the mattress has a minotaur butt, like, divot in the in there that's not so quick to recover. So he gets up, straightens up his butler uniform, and begins to walk out. Oh, before I go, and he plays some notes and looks around. Nothing seems to have changed, but he seems content. See you again, Professor. If you need anything, go ahead and ring.
I will make sure to. Thank you, DJ.
DJ closes your door and leaves you be. In the wake of this conversation, are you simply going back to more graphs and calculations, or is there anything else that you would like to do in this moment?
Cypher would look over his work. The smirk crosses his lips. The design is complete. Now comes the next part. The build phase.
Okay. Then we will leave off there for your vignette, Professor Cypher. Quick question before moving on. Are you all lethality? Talking to you as lethality. You have nerds at 2. Well, my 2 o'clock, or shortly after.
Four is 1. Technically, it would be 3 right now due to DST type stuff.
Yeah.
Not until 4, so I'm good to go until 2. 2 and 3 if you need.
Coffee and Fluffy, do you need a cutoff, or are you good depending on how much more we can do tonight?
I'm here all night, so
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't want to do too much without a woo, but
yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a hard stop or anything.
Sure.
neither do I.
All right. I'll tell you what then. Why don't we get up and take we'll take a break, snacks, drinks, all that. When we come back, there is actually she's out in the audience, I presume, still lurking. For a vignette featuring Noralai, I can offer something that doesn't require her to be here. Though, of course, in the future, we'll need her to, we'll need her winged boots on the ground, as it were, in order to help out and research and back y'all up and offer, observation and companionship. But what we'll do is we'll take a break and we'll come back. I can offer a vignette from Noralai, like a Noralai perspective, and then I believe we can have our final approach to Mesomasca and get you down on the island and have you begin the research that you are wanting to do. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Then for all of you out there in the audience, give us 10-15 minutes and we'll come back and we'll have more for you.